Welcome back, crafty cuties. We are back with part 2 of the junk journal folio. I've got my blueprints here and I came up with some different ideas. I'm gonna make like this trifold kind of envelope looking thing, I think, with a bunch of different pockets and little flips. And then we'll see what I end up making for the underneath part. So I've got that kind of in my mind, and between the last video and now, I did put a lace closure and I just sewed it onto this scrap piece of paper that I had that was super pretty, and glued this down. And then the other thing I did was I just glued down some paper for this spine right here. I think that's all. So we're going to be working on this area right here. And so we're gonna just kind of push this back because we'll be working off of this. Actually, I'm gonna set it to the side for now and bring over my paper trimmer so we can get right into it. And I just grabbed one of the pages here that I have. Now, I don't know sizes that I'm gonna be needing, but I remember the height was 8 3/4, I believe. So I'm gonna just start by trimming this down. We'll be folding this paper, so I'm not worried about the orientation. I'm just gonna double check that that's the height. Yes, that's the height that we need. And so also, let's see, how wide of an area do we have to work with? I forget that. Probably about 6.5. I'll say 6 1/4 to be safe. So I know that I want the main area to be am I making sense? I want the main part of this envelope in the middle to be that width. So I want it to be about 6 1/4. So I'm gonna grab my scoreboard. Okay, so I have my scoreboard here, and I'll be honest, I'm not feeling so confident right now about measurements. I never am. So I'm gonna just use this book as a guideline, and I'm just going to kind of mark off as close as I can. This is not even the scoreboard I was hoping to find. I don't know where my normal one is, but I think you'll see what I'm doing here in just a moment. So I'm gonna score down like this. Yeah, so, oh geez, this scoreboard is not great, but that's okay. It'll help us get straight lines somewhat. And sorry about my nails. I had gel polish on them, and that was the first time I had done gel, and I don't know how to remove it. I think I have to go back, or there's probably certain ways you can do it at home. So sorry, my nails look real bad. Okay, so hopefully this is making sense here. Now I realize this page is probably not long enough to make these pages come quite together. Okay, not bad, almost. I'll probably just add on a piece like this, which is fine because then this can be a little pocket or something like that. Okay, so let's see. I'm not a fan of actually measuring things out, if you didn't catch that already. Okay, so I'm just trying to trim this down to the same width. Sorry, we're not in focus. Okay, I'm truly working this out in my head right now, so I thought I would just turn the camera on. Okay, so if you see, these pieces almost come together, but I kind of want them to overlap a bit more, and I'm going to have a string closure between the two. I hope that makes sense. My first thought was I can just glue this straight down, or we can go ahead and maybe layer it in a way that it will become a side pocket for the inside, which is what I was wanting to do on this side anyways. I think that's gonna make sense. And then I can cover this with some pretty paper when we get to that point, along with this. Okay, so actually, let's do that. And before we get too far, it might be easier right now just to at least cover this inside part. I'm trying to think what paper to use here. So I'm just gonna trim some of this out, and we'll at least cover this portion of the inside. So I am going to ink up the edges just in case any of them peek through. This printer paper, I probably should have printed this out on thicker paper, but it's going to be fine since we're layering. Just a little bit of ink there. Then we'll go ahead and glue this down. And again, I don't want things to get too bulky, so I could, well shoot, here I go again. I could take advantage of the fact that I'm layering and turn this into a pocket, but that might make things bulky, but I'm gonna do it just in case, and maybe I won't end up. So let me show you what I'm doing here. I'm gonna just glue the 3 sides here. So there will be space on top just for a small tag if I decide. And once I get everything glued down, that might not even work. I'm not really sure, but it'll be maybe an option. Okay, so there we go. We can ink up any of the white that we'll be showing in a little bit here. Okay, then we're gonna layer this on the inside, and I think that will even add some interest to the outside of this envelope. I almost feel like you're gonna just have to bear with me and just see how it all looks once we get going. Now I'm thinking I could sew this down, but if I sew the top, that's gonna get rid of that pocket. So why don't I just glue the top? That's right, I wanted to add ink to this side too. It'll be a little easier to do now. And I am using this pink colored one because I kind of like how it pops on this darker color. Okay, so this. Okay. Just to remind myself that there's a pocket up here, I'm gonna put this just tag, which is actually just some scrap paper, just to remind me. And so then when it dries, it'll kind of leave that space a little bit more. Okay. Now we're gonna sew down this side and over. Trying to make sure it's all straight. So we'll bring this over. Alright, let's do a cross stitch just to add a little bit of interest here. And then I'm just going to go ahead and see, I'm going to go not all the way to the end because that's what's going to create the pocket on the inside. Am I doing that right? And then remember, I can't sew along the top because that would open up that pocket. Now, if I had thought about this before, I could have sewn along the top before putting everything together to give it that faux stitch, if that makes sense. But I glued it, so we're okay. Okay, now this can be a side pocket right here. This will lock it, or yeah. It'll need to be something, you know, a little less wide than like this, but that will be just fine. Like maybe even this, something like this would probably fit in there. A little too tall, but I think you catch the drift. Now I do want to cover this with paper, and I probably should have done that before sewing because we're going to cover up that sewing, but that's fine too because we can just run it through again. Ooh, I've been wanting to use this portion of the paper here, so I think I'll trim this down to fit right along that strip. I cut this a tad too skinny, so we'll remedy that. I could ink up the edges, but I'll just go ahead and make use of some of this washi tape I have, and that can peek through. It's always nice to have extra layers anyways, and washi doesn't really add any bulk, so that's good. I just remembered that I was thinking I should add a gusset to this so that you would have space, more space, but that's okay. We'll just have to make it work. So I'm just gonna kind of line this with my washi tape. Okay, so I'm just adding a glue, a line of glue on the top. I'll place this just right over this panel. And then I am actually going to grab my sewing machine again and give that another sew. And I'm gonna just sew over the same area that I already did. There we go. I should have thought about the fact that maybe I was going to add a a little closure, and I could have done that first and then covered it up with this, but again, you can't let these things stop you or get you upset. Okay, while we can, let's add sewing detail to this. I'm just gonna sew all the way around. I don't know exactly what I'm gonna be adding to the side, but I figure actually maybe I'll just go kind of all the way around. So yeah, I'll just go all the way around. You won't see the inside, but that's okay, I'm still going to. I think I want to cut corners like this. Could do it to this side actually. Oh boy, guys. Do I like that showing or do I like, yeah, I'm gonna just do it anyways. Should be fine. Should be fine, right? There we go. Just even some little corners. I think that will look nice. I'm just gonna use this one to measure up here. I think that's gonna be fine. Then I'm thinking of adding a clear pocket straight down here. I think I'll just go for it. I don't exactly know what I'm doing with the rest of this, but let's just do it. Will be a nice place to put something. There we go. I'm just gonna re-sew over the corner areas. So there we go. Then it looks like I kind of meant to do that. Now I have to figure out what kind of like a little closure I want. I'm so sorry, I keep being out of frame, guys. So I found this little metal embellishment, Tim Holtz, and I was thinking that maybe if I put it on this side, my camera keeps not focusing, and then over here I'll have like this little ticket that will be on this side and this could slip under. I think we're just gonna go for it. And I'm gonna have to maybe hand sew this on, so I want to do it as close to the edge as I can so it doesn't interfere with our inside pocket. So I'll take that out, and so I don't need to glue it down or anything. What I need to do is grab, and I'm sorry about the glare there, I need to find a needle so I can just go ahead and sew it by hand through. All right, let me get my needle threaded. Got lucky, threaded my needle on the first try. So we're gonna go ahead and kind of go in the middle-ish. Then I'm just gonna pick this up and I'm just gonna poke a hole and hope I don't go all the way through everything. Maybe we could go like that. Oh, you know what? Maybe I'll have the knot on the inside. Yep. And see, this is where if I had thought it through again, we could probably cover up the knot, but that's gonna be fine with me. We're just gonna call it, it's gonna be okay. Things don't have to be perfect. It's gonna look super cute either way. And I think I'm just gonna go around this a couple times. So I'll just go back in here. And I could have sewed this quite a few different ways really, but this is what we're going with. And I'm starting to love that I have all of the sewing threads. I personally like that, some people don't. I'm honestly only sewing, I have this thing stuck in here. I'm only sewing because I want those threads kind of peek through. Okay, I think I can just do that twice I mean. So I'm gonna come back in here and just tie off a little knot. Then I will sew on the other side. And we can finish our closure and get to the inside of this. Okay, I have this sewed on, so the test. Did I sew anything shut to where we can't access this pocket? No. Okay, great. That's a good start. Here we go. I like that. That's fun. So now what we need to do is go ahead and figure out where we need to attach this. And I'm thinking we don't want it to be too far in there because after a while it'll get kind of, you know, bent around, but I think that's looking good right there. And so what I'm gonna do is just add a little bit of a glue dot. And so remember, you only want to glue on one side, the left side, because we want to keep the right side open so that it can easily get into that little slot. So I'm gonna let that dry for a minute before I sew it, and then we'll just double check that it works. While I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to attempt to make a bit of a little, I guess you would call it gusset. And what I'm gonna do is take my bone folder and my trimmer here and just use the trimming gusset here as a guide to make one more fold mark, and they're only about 1/8 of an inch difference there. But what that's gonna do, if this thing gets folded or filled up, if this thing gets filled up quickly, that will give this a little bit of wiggle room to kind of fold on either of those fold marks, if that makes sense. So I'm just going to kind of reinforce this a bit here. I think that will be fine. That'll give just at least a little bit of room. Not too much, but yep, that should be fine. And I didn't do it on the other side, but I think it'll be okay. So I'm just going to go ahead, make a little sew mark here. And I'll keep it on the zigzag stitch. This is just going to reinforce it, because since this will be getting a lot of wear and tear, I think that will be a good idea to have it sewn on. Of course, if you're doing something like this and you don't have a sewing machine, then I would say just to use some really good strong glue, and it still should be good, and just kind of proceed with caution. Okay, let's just double check that our little mechanism works here. So you'll want this to go, you'll kind of have to guide it in there, but yeah, that works. I like that. That's cool. Okay, we have a little pocket here, and I don't know what's going to go in here, but I know this is going to be, you know, the first thing you see in the page. So I think I'll probably want to end up adding like a really fun little tag, which maybe we'll make later. And then this kind of will just open up like that. And then, so we already have this side done. Love the little mushroom. Got our side pocket. We'll have this little tag up here again. This is just a placeholder. And now what we can do is something in the middle here. And for this side, since this is so skinny, I think I'll cover it with some paper. I was hoping that one of these policy envelopes would fit, but that's gonna be too thin, so maybe we can do something with it over here. So yeah, let's just cover this at least. And, ooh, I'm trying to think. Let's think about what paper I want to use. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and messily ink up all of the edges, since I will be layering on paper, and it's likely not going to be perfect, so then it will look prettier with the pink coming through. Okay, and then I'm gonna fold this like that so we can get this area too. So I cut this down to be on the bottom here. I'm not going to glue it down yet because I think I want to make some fold-in pockets. But for this piece, again, we're not working with too much space here. I think I'll add this little skinny piece, but then why not also make some little acetate pockets in case I have something like stamps or, I don't know, something little that could go in there. I'll just make one down here. Well, I guess I could make like 3, honestly. And I should use my trimmer to make these more perfect, but that's okay too. We'll just go like that. Yep. And so we'll go ahead now and just one by one, I'm going to sew these on. And I'm just going to sew around the 3 corners like always. Okay, so I went ahead, sewed those on. Let me show you. So we can totally fit in like even some little ephemera pieces. But of course, when I'm actually going to be using this for personal things, it'll be fun to have. I could even put labels in here with little notes about, you know, memories and things like that. And so I'll just put those for fun because it's kind of cool to see what it's going to look like filled up. Get the strings out of the way, and I'm just going to glue this down. I could actually sew it, but I'm kind of getting to the point where I need to stop, and so sadly I don't know if we're going to finish this whole page in this video, but we have made lots of progress, I would say, because this is definitely a more involved page. So for this middle part, I'm wanting to do 2 flaps that come together in the middle, and they're going to open up like this, so it's gonna be really tall, gives a lot of space for pictures and things. And then I was thinking of also having like an extra little tag that would go on top and fold down. So guys, I don't want to leave you hanging with this folio. I want to finish at least the folio. So I prepped some things to finish off this page, and you may see me decorate more in the next video, but let's at least get through because I'm sure you want to see it all in one video as I do. Okay, so what I did here, so we have our page that's going to go down here, and I cut down 2 pieces of paper that are the same width. And since they're not double-sided, I just lined them with paper. And what we're gonna do is I really just kind of folded them. I kind of just played it by ear. I didn't measure anything, so I can't really give measurements, but I just folded them so they're gonna fold over the page like this, if that makes sense. Okay. And then once we glue those down or sew down, you'll see that they can pop up like this. So then I wanted to keep in mind that I do want to add this policy envelope too, and so I might as well take advantage of using or adding this now before we put everything together. Do I want to add it here? I don't know. Let's get started with just this part. I think I will sew these, but for now, just to hold them in place, I'm going to add just a little bit of glue. Okay, so I want to glue this under this page because then you're not going to see the flaps. And same with this, we'll just glue it to hold it in place for now. And sewing again is not necessary. I like the look of it. Okay, there we go. Then to hold these 2 down, I'm thinking eyelets would be nice, but it's gonna add a lot of bulk. So why don't we just make a little hole punch. I'm gonna cut out 2 circles just for kind of decoration purposes. And I'm gonna glue them down where I want the holes to go. This maybe make more sense in a minute. Just kind of like that, I think. And then this same kind of area. There we go. Then I'm gonna just punch a hole in the middle of that circle. And then we can just use some trim or string to kind of tie them together. An eyelet would look really cute, but again, it is gonna add a lot of bulk. So let's just go ahead, try to do this in the middle as best I can. Punch one there. I had a feeling it wasn't dry enough yet. Wait for a second, then I'll punch that other hole. And the next, for now, I'm just going to use some embroidery floss that I have, and I'm going to fold it in half, and then I'm just going to kind of fish it through the hole like that, and then I'm going to just pull the ends through the loop, leaving enough to kind of tie these together. And there's probably lots of ways, again, that we could add a little string closure here. You could do the one where it kind of like wraps around the double circle, if that makes sense, and that would be really cute too. But this is what I came up with, so we'll do the same thing here. See, and then we can go ahead and tie these together when we are done with it, and it will just kind of hold everything in place. Okay, for now I'm going to leave everything blank in here. Let's make sure we have this right side up. Yeah, I'm going to leave everything blank in here. I had some ideas for the inside, but I do want a lot of space for like bigger photos, so it might make sense to just leave this for now, and when I'm adding photos it will give me a little bit more space to work with. Okay, but the last thing I did want to do is add the policy envelope before we put all of this down. I'm going to make sure I like the look of that. I liked it, but you know what, I didn't really want it to cover up the stuff here. Ooh, what if we did a sideways one? That would be different. And I will likely decorate this. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do to it, but I'll be fine doing it afterwards. I think I'm just going to do that. Yep. Okay. So again, I'm going to add just a smidge of glue, hold it in place, and then I'm just going to go ahead and sew around the entire thing, and then we will go ahead and just glue it down. So that's going to go right there. Yep, just like that. Yeah, I think this will look cute once I like decorate it or do something to it. because I like those tie closures to kind of show. Okay, so we're so close to being done. Let's sew around everything. Everything's sewn. So I just thought of something too. You could also fold this on the inside. So if I decide that maybe I don't like it on the outside, there's that too. But for now, we'll keep it out here. And I did sew all the way through so that it actually sewed through the the embroidery floss. And I think that's good because sometimes these little loop-de-doos can come undone. So this will be nice because that's going to ensure that it stays put. And I'm just going to do a tiny little bow. And then we'll finish this off by gluing it down. And again, since we really don't need to be adding any more bulk, I'm just going to glue it straight down. And just make sure I'm not gluing down any of the strings or anything that we want to be out. I'll just add a really good amount of this glue. And then I'll show you the final look. Here's what it looks like, all finished up, all put back together. And I'm going to avoid gluing it down now because I do think that I may have, I mean, this might be enough on its own, but why not add a little bit more? I think I might add one more layer underneath. So even if it's a bag or something, but we'll figure that out in the next series. I hope that you guys enjoyed this and got lots of ideas for your junk journals so that you can go have some fun with your own. And I can't wait to see you at the next video. I'll be here. Will you? Isn't that someone saying? I think it is. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. Bye.